Hello, and welcome to another video. We are doing our monthly coffee break today, and it's 5 things that you should know, short and simple. And today, or this month, we're going to tackle how to know if I'm on track for retirement. That is, of course, the biggest question we have, and what tools are available to you to use and make sure that you're on track for retirement, whether that's at 65, 67, 70, or early 50, right? 45 maybe, we'll see, or tomorrow, as most people want to joke with me when I ask them when they want to retire. So, what is Coffee Break? As a very quick review, it is made for those who are 401k participants or are eligible for a 401k. Oftentimes, you guys don't get education on anything, even including your 401k. So we're here to help with that. It is a quick peek just to get some strategies. Obviously, anything that is personalized, we do one-to-one. There will be a QR code at the end of the video to show you, to set up a time if you wanted to chat about anything personal. This is short and sweet. It is supposed to be your coffee break. It is supposed to be you being able to get a cup of coffee, enjoy the video, and then get back to work. So 15 minutes or less. And again, just covering highlights. And there is a no obligation complimentary call offer at the end of this if you want to do that. And you can always skip to the end of the video if that, makes more sense for you in general. Okay, so quick introduction. I'm Lisa Sky. I've been in the industry for about 13 years now. I work a lot with female professionals and their families. I help people with, retiring early and those concepts as well. Chris works on the other side. He has some individual clients, of course, but he works a lot on the business side and works with business owners on putting some of these plans in place for you. So, we got the best of both worlds. We kind of know what an employer is thinking when they're putting things in place and how an employee should use them. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing is, what are the rule of thumb answers, right? So a lot of times people say, just tell me what the number is. I have a client that will say, what's my number again? I love that. He always makes me laugh when he says that. So what's the rule of thumb? And there are rules of thumb, actually. A lot of people will say, to replace 80% of your income. They think that Social Security is going to make up that 20%. So you could do that depending on how you feel about Social Security and the future of it. But Fidelity has probably, I think, one of the most clear-cut rules on this. And I'm always happy to send, actually in the description, I will put the link to this article where they outline this. But basically, they say by certain ages, you should have a certain amount of your income. So by 30, they say you should have 1 times your salary. So if you make 100,000, you should have 100,000 saved by the time you're 30. 40 is 3 times your salary, so 300,000. 50, you should have 6 times your salary, or 600,000 in this case. By age 70, by age 60, we skipped one. By age 60, you should have 8 times your salary, which is, 800,000, of course. And by age 67, you should have 10 times your salary, which is $1 million, which is why everybody says you should have $1 million to retire. And that's because of this rule of thumb answer. However, is this really the case? Is $1 million enough? Here's the truth. It's just a basic guideline. It's a great way to kind of see if you're on track in general. But oftentimes, $1 million is not enough money for people to retire, depending on the lifestyle that you live. Also, people are often not considering that they are married and that maybe their spouse makes an income too that they're not considering. They're just considering their own income being doubled if they're the breadwinner in the family. And it's, not the case. You've got other income coming in. So, just to give you some ideas of some math on this, let's say, you've got $1 million in your 401k and you retire. And, you're in the 24 percentile federal bracket. And let's say you have a 7% state tax rate. Well, realistically, if there's no growth, there's no growth on the account, there's nothing, your $1 million is actually, $240,000 short in terms of federal, because that's how much you're going to be paying in federal tax. and $70,000 going to state tax. So really your million is 690,000. Now, of course, this is if this is in a traditional 401k where you've deferred taxes. And I would say most people have most of their money in deferred 401ks. The Roth 401k hasn't been an option for a lot of people for very long. So if you think of this and say, okay, I have 690,000 after taxes. Again, there's no, increase. There's no rates of return on this. Is just basic math, right? If you needed $6,000 a month to just live your lifestyle, which I would say is average, if not low on the average of what retirees often want in retirement, this really only gives you about 9.5 years, 9.6 years to be exact. And again, people can say, well, I can get a rate of return and that kind of thing. However, I would say that most people pull back their risk, obviously, in retirement because they are not making any money. Their money needs to provide them income. They're worried about downturns in the market. And, I hate to say it, if you're in like a target date fund, it's going to pull you back to being more conservative as time goes on as well. So your rate of return might not necessarily make a huge difference depending on how conservative you've pulled it. And so that $1 million mark that people are aiming for isn't the real target for them. It just isn't. So now that I've made it more complicated and probably depressed you, what would you do? How do you know what you should be saving? Well, there's lots of calculators out there. There are calculators in your 401k that usually says financial calculators or figure out if you're on track for retirement, that kind of thing. You could use something like that. You could go to our homepage. We have a very quick and easy system. It says, click here to start your plan. And it is a planning software that you can utilize without our help. So you put in some information, click around, and hopefully get some kind of semblance of a very easy put together plan for you. So if you want to do that on our website, it is onevisionretire.com or www.onevisionretire.com. And happy to have you do that. Now, there are some hiccups when you do these calculators, though, because you don't really know what assumptions you should be putting in there. What's your saving assumptions? What's your income events that you need to be planning for? What's your spending goal? What rate of return should you be determining all this on? All of that is very difficult. And then you're not really sure what tax rates to put in and other things like that. I would say most of these tools don't even go into tax rates, honestly, which is a problem in itself, as we just explained. So, a lot of times these tools, while useful, can give you an inflated sense of security on how you're doing for your planning because it's not calculating in things that, could come up that, I hate to say it, but a conversation with an advisor might bring up. So, the biggest thing you need to consider when you're trying to determine what your number is or what, how much you need to save to be in retirement is what do you want to do in retirement, right? And I really have clients really think about this because we have this saying, I think I've made this joke. It's not really a joke, but this is a saying that we say, which is every day is a Saturday in retirement. And Saturday is the most expensive day of the month, the week for most people because we're not working, we're going out, we're getting brunch, we're buying stuff, we're going grocery shopping, all that stuff adds up. So Saturday is often the most expensive day of the week for most people. So if every day is a Saturday, every day is more expensive than you think it's going to be, right? There's nothing distracting you from going on Amazon and buying that thing you want, right? And so it's eye-opening to people what they actually want to do. And, I chose the top picture, a couple walking through the woods holding hands, because that's the typical, what I hate to say it, what the financial industry shows. They're on a beach, they're walking through the woods, they're holding hands, they're just so happy. It doesn't mean that that's not how retirement is for some people, but I would say that most people want to do things. And I put the scuba diving right there, scuba diving right there. I always get snorkeling and scuba mixed up. I don't know why I do that. So scuba diving in there, because that's what actually people want to do. Nobody's walking on a beach like 24/7 and smiling all the time. Like, that's not what's happening. People want to go scuba diving. They want to do adventures. They want to travel. They want to give their kids a present. They want to do things like that. Maybe they want to own the Porsche that they've never gotten to own before. All of those are out there. And so I really say, almost write a letter to yourself. What does your ideal day in retirement look like? What are you doing? What are you buying? Are you doing volunteer work? I've had clients who jump right out of work and go right into volunteer work, and they're busier than ever. Or do you want to relax, and do you want to travel and all that stuff? So I think it's one of those things that you've got to figure out what's right for you. And it's not the typical things that everybody says. I sit down with people and I say, what do you want to do in retirement? And I hear the same thing from everybody. I want to travel. I want to spend time with my family. I want to do XYZ hobby, but it's usually something small like painting. And you're not going to spend your whole retirement on painting stuff. Hopefully, then we have a problem otherwise. But you've got these little things that people say that they want to do in retirement, and there's no detail behind it. There's nothing to wrap their arms around with it. So people lose who they are in retirement because they don't really know what they want to do. And B, they don't really plan for retirement properly because they say travel, but they don't think, hey, I want to go to Europe 3 times a year. Okay, well, that's a very different retirement than I want to go to Europe once and then maybe travel around to local things around me. You also have to consider, are you moving out of state? There's just a lot of things that you need to be considering. So if you don't really have detail around what you want to do in retirement, this is a very good exercise for you to do. So, find out where you are. That's the other thing is we always say, people always think about the future, but you're never really looking at what you're doing right now. And there are big pitfalls that happen when you don't see where you are and make adjustments to current life to make sure, your future is what you want it to be. Especially, people say, oh, I don't think about retirement till 55, 60. To me, that's too late. I mean, you can, of course, if you're 55 and I just freaked you out, I'm sorry. But it's too late in some respects. We have a very limited amount of time to make it happen, especially if you want to retire at 62. 55 to 62 is not that long. And so you really want to figure out where you are. Where do you stand? And some of those tools don't really show you that, right? And you've got to figure that out. So whether that's you building out your own Excel spreadsheet and figuring out where you're at, or, you're working with an advisor or somebody that helps you with this, it's fine. But you've got to know where you are now to know how you get to where you want to go. And if you're working with a professional, they should be helping you get your number. What number do you need to get to in order to retire? And the whole concept that, retirement means you can't touch the principal and all that kind of stuff, that's a general rule, but you've got to make sure it works for you. Some people can totally touch the principal and be fine in retirement. So there's lots of things out there that are kind of not true that need to be, thought about. So anyhow, in conclusion, making sure you are proactive in your planning. You cannot set it and forget it. I know everybody wants to do that. That's not possible. You need to know your numbers and that they can change. That means being proactive, right? And thinking about your goals and what you want in retirement, really put some detail around it. That is important. So as our time winds down, there's a QR code. Use your camera app on your phone. You can scan it and set up a time if you have questions on what your number is and how to get to your perfect retirement, or even how to do the exercise of figuring out what your perfect retirement is. And if you'd like to email us, you can see email. There's our website again that you can run your mini plan if you want to do that. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and other social medias as well. So feel free to connect there if you want to. And with that, I will see you next month with another topic for our coffee break.